This episode is brought to you by Green Skies Analytics, an audit analytics service provider that works with internal audit departments that have data analysts and are still frustrated with trying to make analytics actually work, aren't getting the expected ROI, who can't break through the communication barrier between the analysts and the audit team, and those that need experienced direction for an audit analytics strategy and process. Those that feel like they've wasted time and money on trainings, aren't getting the value they want, not prioritizing the highest risk areas for the organizations, or have projects that seemingly never get completed. Do you deal with any of that? If you do, go to the show notes of this episode and click the Green Skies Analytics link, or go to greenskiesanalytics.com to schedule a call and understand how Green Skies Analytics makes analytics actually work for internal audit.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Audit Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Russell, and today we are continuing to talk about Agentic AI or AI agents. We've done a few episodes on this already with some not only internal audit experts, but just AI experts in general. We've done those over the past few weeks, so go check those out if you haven't already. Recently, I did a webinar with AuditBoard titled What's Up Next for Internal Audit Agents. So we'll make sure to include the link to that on-demand recording. But for now, I wanted to give, it's not an audit example, but I think it's a really good example of agentic AI and kind of how it works. And mainly because this was the use case that I'd been thinking about for weeks. The more I've been dealing with not only agents, but AI in general, I thought about, it'd be so nice is if someone built one that could do this. And so here's this. Usually, we don't really use the like Instacarts and things like that to do grocery shopping. I'd much rather just go and get those myself. But a lot of times, coming back from vacation, it's nice just, do it while you're driving back from the beach or whatever. Get home, groceries are there. But it's such a pain for me. I absolutely hate using those websites. Maybe it's because I don't use them often enough. I don't know, but I absolutely hate using them. And it seems like even then you would use it and then they didn't have the thing that you wanted. And so you're sitting there talking to the person doing the grocery shopping. And it's like, well, I could have just gone. Like, I can't really go do anything else. I just have to sit here and talk to them the whole time. So anyway, nothing against those sites. I think they're fantastic for a lot of reasons, but that was always my issue with them. So I honestly used it like twice and just told, my wife, like, you please do this from now on. I hate this. So what I always thought would be amazing, though, is if I could just take our grocery list, especially since I feel like most people probably buy the same thing pretty routinely every week. And then there's a few things, based on what you're going to have for dinner, breakfast, whatever, that week. And so I thought, man, if I could just take my list and say, hey, grocery shopping website, this is what I want. Now go get it, basically. And then I don't have to do anything. It's hands off from there. Well, that is real world now. That is a real use case. It is live. You can do it. And so that's what I want to speak about. You can literally write down your grocery list, take a picture of it, scan it into, right now it's in ChatGPT's Pro edition. So right now, as of this recording, that's like $200. The expectation is that it'll be rolled out to the cheaper $20 a month subscription. I think the quote that OpenAI put out was in the coming months or something like that. So I don't really know when it's going to come out. But you take a picture, you upload it, and then you basically tell it, hey, go to this grocery store for me and put these groceries in my cart. And then you would review your cart because it could still get something wrong. So it fills in your cart, you go in your cart and you go, yep, that's that. Basically, you QA it. You do a quality review of, did what I asked for get put in the cart? Maybe you have to go in there and add, an item or two or take something off, whatever it is. But to me, I thought that is amazing. That's what I've always wanted, and it is real. It is here. You can actually do that. And so that is agentic AI. It is taking what you give it, and then it's using its own kind of decision making to figure out, okay, he asked for organic blueberries. Let me go find, here's blueberry, but we need organic blueberries. And it makes that decision for you. So it lacks you don't have to have these very strict rules in it. It's able to autonomously, that's one of the key criteria for agentic AI, is it acts autonomously. It acts kind of on its own. We can say that it applies judgment, although it doesn't really apply judgment in the way that humans does, but it's certainly not dumb. And it certainly doesn't say, if this thing doesn't exist, then I don't know what to do. It has the ability to kind of think for itself, similar to, I mean, it does use LLMs like ChatGPT, Llama, Gemini, all those, right? So it does use that kind of thinking in order to determine if this is what was being asked for or not, and then can kind of make those decisions on its own. And so what we need to do and consider are, especially in audit, good controls around that would be those checkpoints, for example. So I could definitely imagine a day where agents can do a lot of the work for us, especially simple, relatively simple tasks. And then whoever, on the management side, they go, all right, agent, you go do your thing. And yep, looks good. Click. I think where we could come into play for this is definitely reviewing the precision to which that review was done. I think as human beings, it's going to be natural. If this agent is up and running, works really well, naturally, human beings are going to go, all right, man, I mean, you got it right like the past 5 times, so I'm sure it's fine, just go, without doing that review. So without doing the kind of the reconciliation of, here's my grocery list that I wrote down, here's what the agent put in the my cart, and just going, yep, I'm sure it's fine, and going about it that way. You still need to do that comparison between, this is what I asked it to do and this is what it did or didn't do, and is there any manual intervention there? Along with that, do we need to go back and tweak the agent to make sure that it works better the next time? So, and I'll get into kind of that stream of thought a little bit more, but what I wanted to do is, from that webinar, there were a ton of questions that came in live and definitely did not have time to answer those. And so I picked out a handful that were kind of thematic. So if I don't answer maybe your question specifically that was asked, I tried to grab the top, 4 or 5 kind of themes that were that people were asking about. And just to set this up, so what we did and what we demonstrated during the webinar was, we had 3 agents that we built. So we had a data analyst agent, we had a senior auditor agent, and we had a manager auditor agent. And so one way to think about agents is in terms of roles. And so you think about, in an internal audit department, if you have a data analyst, you would have an analyst, you'd have a senior, you'd have a manager, and they each have their own role in the process of any given audit. So the analyst is going to go do their data analytics thing. The senior is going to take that output from the analytic and do the analysis themselves and go, okay, this is an issue. Here's a potential issue. We need to follow up on this. We need to take a deeper dive on this. This thing's an outlier. We should go look at it. We got to ask management, etc. And then they're going to draft some kind of work paper or report around those findings. And then there's going to be another level of review where they're going to take that and they're going to review it themselves and go, and ask their questions, right? Basically think about it as review comments, right? You do your review, you have comments, you send that back to whoever wrote that work paper or the report. They address the comments. It goes back to the person that left the comments. So that was the scenario that we laid out. And so again, we had data analyst agent, senior agent, manager agent. And what we set our agents up to do was, we told the analyst agent, we used terminated users as the use case and said, here is a payroll file. Here is a terminated user file. We want you to compare the terminated users to the payroll file and see if anyone was getting paid after their termination date. Pretty common test that we do with analytics and internal audit. And so that's it. Like, we just told it, go do that, basically. And then we told the senior, hey, you go do the review, do your analysis, write up the report, and the manager, you come in behind it, you do your review, and you basically give your feedback, your comments to the senior, and the senior will address those, and then it'll send it back to the manager. And that was it. After that, like, we told it what to do, and then it was kind of hands off from there, push the button, and it all runs. And what I think one of the coolest things about agents is being able to see their thought process. And so when we told the analyst agent, go do this, it didn't just spit out the report. It said thinking, and it would tell you what it was thinking / doing. So it would say thinking, and it would say, hey, I'm going to go grab the payroll file, and I'm going to compare this column to this column in the terminated user file. And again, this is just the software, the agent that's doing this thinking and telling you what it's doing. And then it would pass it on to the senior, and the senior would say, hey, I'm supposed to take this, and now I'm going to write, a first draft report. based on the findings that we're seeing, and this is my role in this scenario. It does its thing, passes it on to the next one. And so that's how we laid it out. There's various ways that agents can be used, but this is the one we wanted to demonstrate. And we took the code, which is in natural language, human language, like you would type up and tell it, similar to how I described it, and showed that. So when the webinar does become available on demand, you can take a look at that, and hopefully it sticks a little better in your brain as opposed to what I'm just saying right now. So that was the scenario we set up, walked through that, how agents work, the considerations, all that kind of good stuff. Again, from that, we had I think it was like 90 questions that came in the 60 minutes we were doing the webinar. So pulled out a few themes and just wanted to address those for everyone. So number one, of course, zero surprise. What are the risks? How safe are these things? What do we need to do from an audit perspective? All that kind of good stuff. And so I would treat these in a similar way that you have been with AI in general. Also, these are still fairly new. So this idea of creating all these agents to just go do all the work is not here yet. So the risks aren't exactly very well known right now. And so another thing I would suggest is set up some kind of automation. Hey everybody, real quick, wanted to let you know that the Audit Analytics and AI Conference for the spring of 2025 is going to be on March 5th. Registration is open. It's going to be from 9 to 4 Central Time, so that's 9 to 4 Chicago time. We have 6 speakers during this session. It's available live and on demand. And so if you're unable to make it on March 5th, you can still attend the conference basically whenever you want to throughout the rest of the year. You can earn up to 7 CPEs. The link to attend is in the show notes. These are practitioner-led sessions. So it is very much how you do analytics or how you do AI within internal audit. Very, very practical advice. All right, so with that said, let's get back to the show. Speaking of agents, ChatGPT has their version of agents right now called tasks. So you can research that, take a look into it. And so you can set up tasks to say, do this thing for me every single day. So you can set up a task. I have one set up that says, go basically search the internet every day at like 8 o'clock in the morning and bring back every article that's talking about agentic AI and show it to me. And it gives me all the links and I can scroll through and click and go, yep, I want to read that one. I don't want to read that one, etc. So that is a version of agents, but that's one way you can stay on top of this. So depending on your role, again, in internal audit, you could set it up to say, like, tell me any articles where agents have gone rogue or where the risk of agents is mentioned or something like that. And then that way you don't have to go hunt and peck for it every day or hope that it just comes to you through social media or some other, platform. You can be proactive about it and see what's going on. There's some, and these are all research based. So these are researchers. They're basically saying like, hey, what can we do with these? How bad can it get? What are the risks? And so there's some horror stories out there. Again, this is just on the research side. So it's not like this is happening like in any given organization, but where someone gave an agent the ability to copy itself on the server, which is a little scary because again, it can kind of act on its own. One researcher did a couple of different use cases, but one objective and goal that it gave the agent was go take over the world. Kind of terrifying. We're all here, so it clearly did not work. But so it's still new enough, is what I'm saying, is that people are still understanding the risk. And there's different frameworks. I'm going to get into that a little bit later that you can use to build these. And so I would say it's probably fair to say some are safer than others. Certainly you can play around with these, develop them yourself in kind of a test, very low risk environment to get to understand them a little better. But all that to say, it's still fairly new enough that the horror stories haven't really come out yet. There is, with any emerging tech, there's this hype cycle that happens where and we are right in it right now with agents, where it's agents are great and wonderful. It's the best thing in the world. Things can't get any better. We're about to live in this utopian world. And then it kind of peaks and then everybody starts to implement them and go, oh, this isn't exactly how we thought it was going to work. Here's all these issues that we got. It's similar to anything with analytics or automation and RPA. When it first came out, it was like, hey, RPA, great. Like, this is going to solve all our problems. And then you start to implement it and you go, oh, well, if, this button moves half an inch on a website, the entire RPA or automation solution just blows up and doesn't know what to do. And so it's not as great as we thought. So all that said, I would definitely say in the no on this. You can set up those kind of routines, those automations yourself very easily to get that news sent to you again, so that we can be proactive about it. There's also a lot of questions. Unsurprisingly, will using agents in the future be detrimental to the industry by reducing the need to hire people? I'm still of the opinion that we are in this. Those that know AI aren't going to be replaced by AI. It's the ones that don't know it. They're going to be replaced by those that do know it. I think we are very real, especially in the short term. That's where we are right now. And I even say that because I know AI is everywhere, all over the news. Every single SaaS company is now an AI company or has AI functionality in it. And so it can seem like the end is near. Um, During the webinar, I did a poll and just said, it's 2025. What LLM solution have you used? And listed them out, like, have you used, ChatGPT, Llama, Gemini, Claude, all those. And I just used it at all. Have you ever logged in and just typed in a prompt? And about 30% said no. I think we're going to be pretty okay in the short term if people haven't even done that much yet. This wasn't even, do you use it habitually or do you use it every day? Or is it, a cornerstone of your work? It was just, have you ever used it? I've seen similar polls that were north of like 60% of people who haven't used it. And so it's still, it seems like it's been around kind of forever now, like a really long time, even though it's only been about 2 years. There's still a lot of people that aren't using it. So I also think we're in a position now that it could be where it creates more jobs than are potentially taken away. So I know when, the internet was booming, I guess it still is. The internet was booming and automation was taking off and software was replacing some of the manual procedures that humans were doing. It was, we're not going to have jobs anymore. And as you all know, it created more jobs. I mean, we have IT auditors now, amongst other things. The amount of developers and just IT in general, the types of jobs that were created from that outweigh the loss of jobs. And so I think that is where we could be with this. There's going to be controls, again, like I mentioned, kind of at the top, that internal audit's going to need to be in on and make sure that, or better ensure, that nothing too crazy happens with this. And so I think for now, we're in a very safe spot, if nothing else, just because this is, again, like, the tech is great and wonderful and there's this utopian world and it does everything for us. But realistically, once you dive in and start getting it implemented, we start to draw back a little bit more and go, oh, this is how it actually works. And it's not going to do everything that people say that it can do. Especially, I was just before this, I just did a quick search of Agentic AI or Agentic AI frameworks or something along those lines. And of course, there's some YouTube video from a day ago, and it said how to easily create 1 billion agents. And I was just like, that's not how this works. Um, but with that said, there is very much the belief, there is a prediction out there for 2025 that there will be more agents than there are those in the workforce. And so I say that to say you have to stay on top of this stuff in whatever manner that you can. Stay on top of it. Another question, given you have to script to guide the agent, i.e., you have to tell it what to do, how does this differ than using an analytics tool, which you can run your script to provide outputs? So it is not similar at all. So when you write a script or you create a workflow and you say, for example, hey, go find the payroll table. If you're unfamiliar with table speak, just think, go find the payroll Excel file, and then go find the terminated user Excel file, and I want you to compare the user ID in the payroll file to the user ID in the terminated user file. And then I want you to list out the termination dates for anyone who was terminated, but was still receiving pay, right? That's the example we were using. Well, when you do that, when you script it out, you have to be perfect about the name of the column in Excel. And so I said user ID, right? So let's just say it's user and then an underscore and then ID. And so if you tell the script, regardless of the tool or the workflow, if you say go find and join, but well, let's just say find the user underscore ID field and join it up with the user ID field in the other file. Well, if it's not user underscore ID and that's what you tell it, and it's instead user, space bar or white space ID, then the analytics tool is going to go, there's no user underscore ID field. I'm going to stop working. I don't know what else to do. And so it's not there. I fail. Everything else that, all the other, the code, the script, the workflow, everything below it that's supposed to give us the results, it's not going to work. It's just going to stop and fail. All right. So it's very, what is called rules based. You tell it, do this thing, then do this thing, then do this thing, then do this thing. And if any of those things are off even a little bit, it's going to fail. That's why you have to test the workflows and make sure that, table names don't change upstream and all this kind of stuff. And that's why the tech around analytics can get a little more difficult than it might appear when you just see the results. So anyway, that's how analytics tools work. What an agent could potentially do is go, hey, you told me to go look for this user underscore ID field. It says user white space ID. I can apply some thought there and go, well, I'm not super dumb. I'm not rules based. I'm not do A, B, C, D. And if it's not there, I'm going to fail. It can look at it and go, pretty sure that that's the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and join that. And we're going to keep continuing doing our job, or you think about in the script example, continue with the script. And then the end result, if it's not right, then there's going to be a review process that's going to catch that. And that's we can call it, and what is called failing gracefully. So instead of it just going up, it's not there, I'm going to stop. It's going to go, it's a little different than what I thought it was going to be, but it seems right. The same way if a user, like a human being, was looking at it and I told you, emailed you and said, look for the user underscore ID field in this Excel file. And you opened it and you went, well, that's not user underscore ID, but pretty sure that's what he was talking about. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing with it. That's how the agent could look at it and use some level of intelligence to make that decision. So that's the difference, or at least one difference between the two. A lot of people were asking, because we showed screenshots of exactly what we built. So a lot of people said, what platform is this being created in? Basically, what tool are you using to do it? And so there are a handful out there. I would just recommend, this is going to be one of those things where it seems like every other week there's going to be a new tool that can do this. So if you're looking to work on these or build these, audit these even, I would talk to your IT folks, the AI governance committee, whoever that is. And real quick, if audit is not on the AI governance committee, you need to do whatever you can to get in on that. We have got to be part of those conversations. But anyway, whatever your organization is using, that's what I would recommend you use. It's likely already gone through vendor onboarding, and so you should be good to go there. If you need to troubleshoot something or bounce ideas off someone, the people that are already building these things would be really good resources to do that. And so that's where I would start. If there's nothing there, some of the more common ones right now, again, this is as of today, this will change in 2 weeks, I'm sure, but LangGraph, LangChain, Crew AI, Semantic Kernel, and AutoGen, Microsoft's AutoGen. Those are a few that if you search around for agentic AI frameworks, those are the top that kind of float, or those are the ones that kind of float to the top. So those are the ones you could work with. Again, I think it would make sense, even if you go, okay, this is the one I'm gonna, kind of play with, sandbox it, see what's going on. I think it would still make sense to have the conversation with IT, and make sure they're good to go with it, and just get their opinions also. Like, hey, what do you guys think the risks of this thing are? Um, and tell them, hey, we know, like, we're almost tired of hearing about agentic AI. Also, I'm sure you are. But we really need to understand the risks that are going on here. So we want to play around with these, create them, and understand exactly how they work. I think they would appreciate that. Lastly, how ready do you feel agentic AI is for implementation into internal audit teams? Should we start testing and implementing now, or wait for the technology to mature more? I know for a fact that multiple internal audit teams have developed and rolled out agents within their internal audit department. And so, um, again, if you're not uber technical, then I would find one of these frameworks that you can play around with safely and break them. Like, that's probably the number one thing I hear from people when we really understand, like, why are you not using analytics? There's two reasons. One, they're like, I just don't like it. Like, doesn't make my brain happy. I hate doing it. I get that. I'm similar with cybersecurity. Like, I get the need for it. Super important. And some people love it and that's all they want to do. And I just kind of go, I mean, I need to understand what's out there, but I'm not going to deep dive into that. The other one though is just fear of breaking it. There was a client we were working with, and there was this Excel file with this pivot table in it. And, I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Drag this thing over here, click on this. And I said, why have you not, just kind of done this in the past on your own? And she said, well, I didn't want to break it and blow it up. I'm like, well, if it breaks, you have another copy of the file, just open it back up. Similarly, go in, break stuff in a safe environment, and definitely be okay with that. So yes, I would absolutely recommend testing and implementing these to some degree. Definitely testing them and playing around with them, again, in a safe environment, because it is real. There's definitely hype around this. It is, I mean, every day, regardless of um, the vendor and the emails that I'm getting, there's something agentic AI somewhere. Multiple people very much in the AI world have said 2025 is the year of agents. You could search for that and you'll see just article after article after article, CEO or AI expert or leader says 2025 is the year of agents. So it is real. It is here. We definitely need to stay on top of it. All right. If you want to work together to get agents implemented within your internal audit department, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. Just send me a message that says the word, agents or whatever. I can figure out what that means. You can also email me if you want to talk more about that. Either avenue is fine. With that said, I hope that we're able to demystify agents to some degree. I also hope that this created more questions for you than answers, in that you will take that and go find the answers yourself and start asking around, start asking management about agents, risks, and things of that nature. So I hope it created a lot of questions for you also, as well as answering and hopefully demystifying to some degree what those were. On-demand version of the webinar is out. Again, we will link to that for you to be able to see exactly what we're talking about. You can see the demonstration that we did and follow along, hopefully a little easier on that if it's still a little hard to follow, which is completely understandable.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Audit Podcast. Whatever platform you're listening on right now, I'm sure there's a subscribe button somewhere, so please hit the subscribe button there. If you're listening through iTunes or Spotify, feel free to go give us that 5-star rating. It only took me about 16 seconds to give myself a 5-star review, and it really helps to get future guests to come on the show, so we'd really appreciate that. Lastly, be sure to check out the show notes and follow us on all our social media channels on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on TikTok. Also, if interested, please sign up for our weekly newsletter from the Audit Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great one.